So today, we're talking about liveries in GTA Online. In particular, the Gulf livery, how to get it, and which cars it looks particularly good on. Now, liveries have been around since the turn of the century, when each country was assigned a different colour that they would race in. Over time this turned into sponsorship, which over more time turned into liveries like this, where it looks like someone just loaded a load of stickers into a t-shirt gun and fired them at the car and hoped that they stuck. Now, eventually people did get to grips with how to make these things look a lot better, and some teams were even able to create really classy looking liveries and then replace them with even more amazing liveries and then replace them again with another classic livery. But then other teams would come up with what they thought was a classic livery, and when they came to replace it, it just looked an absolute dog's dinner. But then the same livery on a different car, instant classic. Some teams tried to innovate. Jordan did a really good job with the bitten and hisses and buzzing hornets liveries, but when BAR tried a split livery, that looked horrific. Now, in my mind, there are three that have really stood the test of time, and they were provided by Castrol, Martigny, and of course, Gulf. So in this video, we're going to look at the Gulf livery, which is arguably the best ever put together. It looks gorgeous on almost anything. Now, there are two ways you can get this. First of all, you can log into Rockstar Social Club, go to edit your crew, go to edit your logo, choose the logo that you want to use, then head over to this tool. Upload the image that you want to use for your crew emblem, mess around with the settings until this little indicator goes green showing that it's below the memory limit, then click to generate the code, copy the code, go back over to the Rockstar Social Club page, inspect the source of that code, go over to the console, clear the editors, enable editing, and paste the code in there. And that's the simple, he says, way of getting any image that you want into the emblem editor. Now, if you think that sounds like a bit of a faff, that's because it really is quite a lot of a faff. But luckily for you, there's a much easier way of getting access to this crew emblem so that you can apply it to your cars, and that is to just join my crew. This one here. It will give you three main benefits. First of all, it will mean you're part of my crew, which automatically makes you one of the cool kids. Probably. It gives you access to the Gulf logo that you can then apply to any of your cars by adding the crew emblem. This is a really well produced Gulf logo with a transparent background, so it fits with anything. It's really good. And third of all, the actual crew colour for this crew is a very good representation of the Gulf blue, and that was figured out by Quite the Rhino, so thanks for that, dude, appreciate that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at which cars this looks good on, and I'm going to do it with a good old tier list. And I'm starting with what I'm going to call ass tier, but for those in the UK, we'll just call them dog shit. And we'll start with the Adder. There are two reasons I did the Adder. One of them is that this is one of the few cars where you can actually put the crew logo on the bonnet or the hood. But the Adder itself just doesn't have enough customization to make this work. So unfortunately, I'm sorry, but you're in ass tier. Now, and I'm not quite sure why I expected it to work on the Nebula. But maybe because it was a car of the 70s, I don't know. But it just shows you have to be careful. You can't carry this look off on every car that you've got. But there are some where it works really amazingly well. So let's have a look at those now. And we'll start in B tier, because I'm not going any lower than B tier, because all the ones where it works, it looks sweet. So we're starting B tier with the Tyrus. Now, I wish this could go higher, but the colour balance between the orange and the blue isn't quite right, and you can't put the crew logo on there. But it's a cool car. It's based on the McLaren Longtail, so why they didn't give it a proper Gulf logo, I have no idea, but it's cool enough in my book. Next up, we've got the Thrax. And this is why I did the adder, because the other two Trefades work really well. Arguably this one less well than the last one that we'll get to, but it's still a really, really great car. You get a good balance between the blue and the orange. You can put the crew logo on the door. It's a touch smaller than I'd like, but it's generally a pretty car and it does work really well. Next in B tier, we've got the Comet S2, but without the Ron livery. Now, if you don't know what the Ron livery is, this is a livery that was available for a very short amount of time. And if you don't have it, this is a fairly reasonable job you can do. But we will come back to the Ron livery on the S2 later on and how to get it much later. Next up in B tier, we've got another Comet, and this is the Comet SR. This is one where there are enough parts that you can do in a secondary colour to give yourself a good mixture of the orange and the blue. With a decent sized crew emblem on the door, it really kind of works. Next up, we've got the Emerus. And this is one that doesn't use the Ron livery. This uses the Jackal livery. But there's enough orange in there to carry it off against the blue and make it feel like a Gulf racer. It's a little bit busy for my liking, but that's why it's quite far down the list. But it's the best way I can see to get the Gulf livery on the McLaren, because none of the other Pro Gens take it very well at all. Next up, we've got the Zaruso, which is a bit of a Marmite car. It is a nice livery. It's quite well done, and you can get the crew logo on the door. And as I say, this one's a little bit polarising, but I think this livery helps it out quite a lot because, as I say, the looks, you either love it or you hate it. So it sits down in B tier, but it's still a pretty decent car. And next up, we've got the Fister Growler. It's another one that doesn't use the traditional Ron livery. This uses the Globe Oil livery, but there's enough orange in here to carry this off. And even though this is a little bit busy, the crew logo really works. Now this is one that should be a lot better. This is the T20, based on the McLaren P1, so this really should have a much better Gulf livery than this. It's in the list because I think it's close enough to count and I really wanted it for this car, but it's nowhere near good enough. So whilst it's not brilliant, of all the cars I wanted this livery on, this is one of the key ones, so I had to put it in there. And then we move on with the Tygon, which I think does a reasonable job. So there's a livery in there which has these two yellow stripes across the top. If you're clever enough with your pearlescent colours, you can make that look a more orangey yellow. So you combine that with a crew logo and an orange roof, and you've got a pretty decent, pretty looking car, and I like this one a lot. Now we're ready for A tier, and this is where they start to look really rather nice. And we'll start this with the Niobe, which is my choice for the car of the GTD driver series that will be starting very soon, so look out for more details on that. This is not a car that has nice liveries. Most of the liveries for the Niobe are absolutely horrific. But this simple livery with the Gulf colours and the Gulf logo looks really, really nice. Next up we have the Imaggio. And again, another really good job with the livery, but you can't put the crew logo on the door again. I'm also reminded here that I did forget to put a decent GT spoiler on the back. So I think it would look better with that, but it's a pretty car anyway. It's a very well done livery, but unfortunately, like a lot of the newer cars, you can't put the crew logos on. So that drops this down a little bit. This really could have gone into S tier if it would have allowed you to put the crew logo on the door. Now in a surprise entry, we've got the Locust. And again, this is not the Ron livery, but it has just enough orange in it to really carry off the Gulf look. And here we have the last and the best of the Trefades, the Nero, which I somehow managed to crash just by pulling it out of LS Customs. There's a really nice balance between the orange and the blue, a decent sized crew logo on the door, and whilst it doesn't actually have a full livery, because we're just using secondary colours here, it looks really, really good. Next up, we've got the Yosemite Drift. Now this has a brilliant implementation of the livery, arguably one of the best, and I'm not supposed to be judging it on how the car drives, I'm supposed to be judging it on the livery, but this car is so monumentally awful, I can't put it any higher than this. Yes, it looks cool, it looks super cool, but it drives like a stinking turd, and no car that drives this badly can go in S tier for anything. But it is a really good Gulf livery. Now down to the Datsun 190Z. It's another good implementation, but I'll be honest, I don't think I've done a particularly good job. I should have put orange wheels on, I should have put the primary coloured bonnet, but with a decent orange livery and a good sized crew logo on the door, this works really, really well. And now we're into the special ones. Now we're at S tier. These are the very best Gulf liveries you can get, and we start with the Retinue Mark 1. Now you can't put the crew logo on this, but you can't argue that this isn't one of the best looking Gulf replica liveries in the game. It's absolutely stunning. And then we come back to the Comet S2, and this is the one with the limited edition Ron livery. Now you can put the crew logo on the door. I haven't, because it sits over one of the others. And if you don't have this, as I said before, there is an easier way to get this. Drop me a comment, drop me a message, get in touch, add me on PSN, and I can arrange to meet you at the LS Car Meet, and you can buy this from me. It doesn't matter that you weren't logged on at the time that this livery was available. You can buy this one from me, and then you can have this, which is easily one of the best looking replicas in the game. Now, a surprise entry here is the Autark. And again, this is just really good use of secondary colour panels. It feels like a nice racing car, but this isn't actually using a livery to get that look. You get a decent sized crew logo on the door, and I was really surprised at how good this one works. And it's exactly the same with this. Now, there's no livery that works particularly well for the Comet Retro Custom, but there are plenty of parts that you can paint in the secondary colour that make this thing look really, really good. And again, you combine that with a decent sized Gulf logo on the door, and you've got a pretty sweet looking car. And here we've got an instant classic, the Bullet. This looks incredible. Yes, it's very cheap. Yes, there's hardly any customization, but this absolutely looks the part. And this car is what actually set me off doing this challenge in the first place. I love this thing. And then another surprise one was the Vapid Ellie, which is possibly the best implementation of this livery in the game. It looks absolutely perfect. Even the Gulf crew emblem sits really nicely next to the car number. It's really well balanced, looks realistic, drives like crap, but I love the car. And in another surprise for the cheaper cars, we've got the Sabre Turbo, which again just comes from making good use of primary and secondary colours. You can get a really nice blend between the blue and the orange, a decent sized crew logo on the door, orange wheels. What more do you want? This is a great version. But now, the top of the list, it's this. It's the Banshee, in particular the 900R. And again, this is mostly coming from primary and secondary colours, but by going for the 900R, you can add an extra livery through Benny's that gives you this orange splash up the side of the car. The crew logo sits in perfect, and it just looks amazing. This thing looks like it's doing 200 miles an hour when it's standing still. Fabulous bit of work. And of all the cars that you can put the Gulf logo on, or the Gulf livery on, should I say, this is my absolute favourite. So I want to caveat this whole video by saying I haven't checked every car. I've checked a lot and some don't work, and some of those are an absolute travesty, like the LM87. Why would they not make it so you could put the Gulf logo on the Le Mans cars? That's where it made its name. I've no idea. But if you think there are some that you've done or you've seen that you think I've missed, let me know in the comments and I'll have a look, and there could be enough for a part 2 on some of the other liveries as well. So I hope this was useful, and I hope I haven't made you consider spending too much of your money before the DLC drops next week. Either way, I hope that was useful, and I'll see you in the next one.